I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending November the 18th, where the bulk of the offerings in the sale barns across the country, 500 to 700 pound calves, they sold steady to $4 higher. Yearlings not well tested anywhere. We're just about out of true yearlings. Few spots of grass yearlings, they'll bring just about whatever the market will bear depending on who's there at the sale that day and if they're offered in load lots or not, but just not enough of them to really get a good test nationwide. Anywhere that they were offered, they sold with a higher undertone. Hardly any yearlings in the direct trade, as we mostly see yearlings in the direct trade and not very many cattle moving in the direct trade. Most of what we're seeing is all calves now born in the spring, and don't see a lot of calves selling except for maybe out west. They're big ranches, but a lot of your calves still need to go to the sale barn because they need to be sorted, they need to be sexed and sized, and as wild as the market is right now, you might insult somebody if they ask you what you want for your cattle, and they may bring more than that when they get to the auction. But what really was hot this week was your lightweight calves under 500 pounds. Demand on them was outstanding, and the trade just exploded with those lightweight calves selling from $6 to $12 higher, and it was not uncommon to see them as much as $20 higher in a lot of spots, and that's on top of prices that were, by all intents and purposes, record highs for those weights last week, and they just keep pounded on top of those. Down in the southeast, we really saw those lightweight calves get hot this week, as the average on the southeast calves weighing into fours was over $10 higher than it was just a week ago. So they're not finding enough of them out in the central parts of the United States, and they're having to order them out of the south, and really boosting the market on those in 3 and 4 weight calves, especially steers. It's just hard to say what they might bring. But these backgrounders have made a lot of money on their cattle this year. And the guys that have just recently sold their grass yearlings, or maybe they sold them back in the summer, they bring, probably over $100 more than they ever dreamed they would bring per head. And those guys want to reload. They want to do that again. But to do that, they're going to have some turnout cattle as soon as grass comes early in the spring. We know that the stocker cattle are really tight come springtime. And so instead of being able to take time off, and we've seen that more and more in recent years, these guys that like to background cattle through the spring and the summer, they got to dig in and start buying them right now. And they're buying these light pee-wee calves, and they're just going to try to not really do too much with them this winter other than keep them alive, not spend a whole lot of money on feed, just keep those cattle healthy and keep them right through the winter time, kind of dry winter those cattle. And then as soon as the first sprig of grass comes out this spring, they will turn those cattle out. There is some wheat pasture. I was down through Oklahoma last week. I tell you, in and around Oklahoma City there, in about a 150 mile circle there, it really looks good there. Of course, the grass still looks terrible because the moisture they had was too late for that. But that wheat is so bright it'll hurt your eyes, and really nice and thick, not real tall and lush yet, but they do have a good stand on them. But what cattle you see turned out on the wheat right now is mostly cows. And so a lot of these calves that would normally go out on wheat pasture will probably be shut up and just fed something not too heavy there, just to kind of, like I say, keep them healthy. Most of your backgrounders like to buy steers, depending on where they're going to turn those cattle out. We don't know if they got fences or bulls nearby. They just don't like the heifers as much. The heifers don't put on the weight quite as easy, and everybody wants steers. So you see this steer heifer spread just getting huge right now. On 4 weight calves, your steer heifer spread could easily be $50 or $60 a hundred, which is huge. And the closer you get those cattle to the knife, the closer they come in price, where they're absolutely the same whenever they're ready to go to slaughter. When they're ready to go to the feed lot, they're only $5 to $7 difference, and as they're bigger feeders, they're not nearly as much. But just a giant spread on your steers and heifers, just like it is on choice and select, and if you've noticed, just like it is on diesel and gasoline. But profits have been outstanding for cow-calf producers and backgrounders, not so much for feedlots. a lot of your feedlots still losing money on these cattle, even though we had record high fed cattle last week there. But just giving so much for these feedlot replacements. And you know, it's hard to see on the surface. A lot of these feedlots, you know, they got a better chance to make money on the risk management than they do, you know, feeding the cattle. They have more opportunities to make money selling the feed than they do the cattle, and it's just hard to tell just on the surface how these feedlots are getting along. But they keep buying the cattle. A lot of them are corporate, and they just hope to make their money further down the line. But you know, everybody's making money in the cattle business except for your feedlots, and it's tough for them. But your independent feeders, that they're seeing opportunity there. They're going to do a lot of the work themselves, got a lot of the feed themselves, and not a whole lot of overhead. But huge prices again. We said that the yearlings are getting really short. In Pratt, Kansas, at the sale barn there, that Gardner Ranch come into town. Don't usually sell a lot of commercial cattle, but did there this week, and had a light load of 704-pound steers. Now these steers are all black-hided, off grass, green condition. They got those carcass genetics. 704-pound steers bring 157.10. Straight load of 804-pound steers, 155.10. A straight load of 870-pound steers, 149.25. That's in south central Kansas. That's not up in the sand hills of Nebraska. And those were not farmer feeders. Those cattle were bought by independents, will be fed in commercial feedlots there. Going to be hard to hit the break even on them. I don't know if we can find enough premiums or not, but they were high desirable cattle, and they will absolutely do it all. Fat cattle hit a record last week, all-time record live steer price for the weighted average in the 5 area feeding regions there, $125.49 on a live fat steer. This week they couldn't hold that market, lost $2 to $4, still a respectable level from $122 to $123.50. Regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, 7 to 800 pound steer cost you $145.88. Last week $144.79. Year ago $113.59. Down to south central states, 5 weight steer, 5 to 600 pounder, $151.95 on a 5 weight steer. Last week $150.15, and a year ago just $119.49. And down in the southeast, where they made those huge gains, 4 to 500 pound steer on the average cost you $146.56 compared to $135.35 last week and $114.68 a year ago. We're not going to have a video next week due to Thanksgiving. Everything's going to be kind of shut down, so we will see you in 2 weeks. For more market information, check out our website, marketnews.usda.gov. From the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri. We'll talk to you after Thanksgiving.